Hello, everyone. So, I want to just talk about something I like, just off the cuff, something I've been thinking about, having to do with the paranormal, ghosts, demons, that kind of thing, experiencing them, um, those kinds of phenomena in our world, and kind of stuff like that. I guess and how that and like how to sort of if it's possible to sort of verify these things to be real or not. So first of all, let's kind of talk about this stuff within the confines of religion. Just basic Christianity versus atheism. I know that with certain other religions, there's a possibility of that. Like with Judaism, I think there might be something like, I'm not sure. There's Judaism. I'm not entirely sure about. I'm not sure what their stance on the paranormal is. I know that Christianity has a good bit to do has a good, I guess, a good firm hold on what they believe about that. Um, I think Hinduism has something having to do with that. There's different thoughts and different, I guess, religious texts on. Well, there's parts of certain religious texts between different religions on what that might be, or on what the paranormal is, or stuff about that. Like I know that the Bible has a lot of things about the paranormal, about demons manifesting themselves in somebody else, or some other angels or ghosts and demons and all this stuff that you do see in the Bible. So within the confines of basic Christianity, there's the idea that there are malevolent spirits, there are demons, who, that in hell, there's Satan, and then there's lots of different demons. There are various different demons that, that range from different powers, and who are, there's demons in hell, basically. They have named ones. Um, there are named ones that you see in the Bible, and there are in books in the Bible like Revelation. There's stuff about that in the Old Testament a lot, um, where where in the Old Testament they discuss various different demons. There's and then in the Gospels, I can't remember which book of the Gospels, but there's a demon which is where Christ looks into this man who knows that this man is possessed with a demon, and he says, "Who are you?" And he said, and the person possessed says, we are called Legion, for we are many." And the person the possessed one says to free us, and he tells them to, and he goes into the water, and apparently pigs devour him. I can't remember entirely about that. I haven't read the Bible in a while. I'm kind of in a sort of a stage where I'm not, thoroughly. I still believe in my Christian background. I still believe in Christianity. I still believe in Jesus and God. I just have not been entirely, I guess, about reading the Bible and doing that thing every day. And I should be, because I believe that's good for a person who believes in that religion. But that's just something I haven't been really doing that much. Um, so in Christianity, of course, there are demons. They don't say much about ghosts, and by ghost I mean somebody who has died and is stuck here for some reason, or they are in a place where they are in the ghostly realm, but they are, well, any ghost is in the ghostly, or the spiritual realm, but they are in a place where they 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 are sort of manifesting here for some sort of reason. But there's not much in the Bible about that. But the where that comes from is sort of that comes from various, thoughts about the Bible, various interpretations. If you've seen the movie called The Conjuring, that's based on two demonologists who believe there are two kinds of paranormal, spirits. One being a ghost, one being a demon. The ghost being somebody who is somebody who died and is stuck here for some reason, whatever. Either they have to complete something that there's something that happened before they died that they have not resolved, and then there's demons who are spiteful, they are evil, and they are here to destroy. They're here to do whatever harm they can to the people who are living. So, however, the atheist is, of course, people who, in the realm of the philosophy of mind, they are what are called monists, basically. So people who are Christians are basically dualists. They are dualists similar to Descartes, not necessarily of the Cartesian form, but they are dualists. They believe that there is a body and then there is a spirit or mind. There's a spirit, and then those two things are separate. However, when we are alive, like I am and you are now, those two things are together in some way. They are configured together in some way. And when the body dies, the spirit or mind lives on. While as the atheist is the monist, there's also various forms of that, like a materialist or a physicalist. A physicalist is, in the philosophy of mind, is somebody who believes that anything that you are and anything that metaphysics is something that is physical, it's natural, it's something that can be studied and defined in the scientific realm. Whereas if you're a dualist, obviously science cannot study something that is spiritual or basically something that is just a mind. That isn't something that is not something that scientists can study. And in the modern philosophy, you have rationalists and you have empiricists. The rationalists being Leibniz, Descartes, Malebranche, whereas Descartes had a body and a mind. He has a dualist philosophy. To where you have these two things, and Leibniz had monads, which were basically the matter which makes up the mind. Spiritual isn't really the right word for Leibniz, but monads, where there was a realm. And I haven't read Leibniz or Descartes in a while, so what I'm saying is basically not the best way to explain. I have videos on both of those people. If you want like a really good, well, I don't want to call myself good, but I think that they are good explanations of those thinkers. If you want that, you should check out my playlists. And there's a modern philosophy playlist, and there's also an intro to philosophy playlist that is there that has stuff on that. And basically, with atheism, you have monism, which means that there's only one kind of substance that makes up people and makes up metaphysics, makes up matter. So that's kind of what those things are. So within religion kind of, in a way, almost dictates whether you believe in ghosts or demons or not. And it does. I mean, personally, I do believe that there is something called the paranormal. As to the demonologists, which really do exist. If you watch The Conjuring, which is a horror movie, that is based on two demonologists who are Christians, and they base some of their research and some of their beliefs about demons off of the Bible. And they do have the belief that there are ghosts and demons. Personally, about the ghosts, I'm not so sure. I do believe that there are demons, but I have a personal experience about where my mom lives, which makes me kind of question that. Before everything that has happened at my mom's house, I didn't believe in ghosts. I thought there was just demons, because there's nothing about the Bible, nothing basically in the Bible. When you die, you come before Jesus and you answer a couple questions, including what have you done for me. It's something like this. I'm butchering this, but something like what have you done for because of my son, and do you know my son? Basically, stuff like that. And based on that, you either come into heaven or you don't. But basically, if you're saved, according to my religion, if you're saved, you go to heaven immediately, like that. So by that, I did not think that there was any kind of ghosts, where they're just people who have died who are still here, manifesting here in some form or way. I didn't think so. But then, with the stuff with my mom's house, I am not sure. Just not sure. And I'll kind of explain the stuff with my mom's house. So my mom's house is where I, of course, lived from 2nd grade until probably 2013 is when I lived there. And in the time that I lived there, I didn't question anything. I did not think that the house was was haunted or anything like that. And recently, according to my mom and stepdad, the paranormal activity there has really increased, and they're trying to move because of that. But I want to talk about like just the stuff that happened when I was there that I didn't really question. I didn't think it was really that paranormal. Basically, what had happened was I didn't hear any voices then, but when I was home alone, a lot of stuff did happen. But I didn't question it because it's a house that's 100 years old. Okay, it's from the early 1900s, like 1900 to 1910 is when it was built. Very old house that my mom and my dad, before my mom and dad got divorced, my mom and dad renovated it, and they made it better and nicer. So it does. If you saw it, you wouldn't think it was that old, but it is that old, because it's just everything inside it has been redone. When we moved there, it looked very old, but like it looked very 70s. But if you looked at it now, you would not think it was old. Like they knew everything, just new. So when I lived there, I slept in the basement, and I had a cat down there. Well, I had I would always have a cat down there with me because I love cats. I'm a total cat person, love cats, and always at my house there would be at least 20 cats that were around. They were just around. But there was a select few that we had in the house, and there was one that I had in my basement with me. Well, I always had one. They varied from one of them, like they would also go outside, so I would lose one or something like that. One of them died, stuff like that. So I would always have a cat down there with me. But I had a cat whose name was I had two cat. I had one whose name was, I named her Kiki. I was 14. Don't know why I named her that, but I did. I remember her growling at something. Now I haven't told my mom this, but I'm telling you. She doesn't watch these videos, so she won't see this. Kiki was growling at something, and she was watching something very, very intently. I was laying on my bed right here, and to my right, I see her on the ground, and there's no carpet down there. It's a cold concrete floor because they're flooded down there all the time. So she was on that floor, and the TV was off. I wasn't playing anything. I wasn't doing anything. I was just kind of laying there. I was kind of taking a nap. But I woke up and I saw her watching something intently and growling. And I didn't think anything of it. I told her. I just said to her, "Knock it off," So, and I didn't think anything of it. So something happened to her. I can't remember what, but then I was maybe 15 or 16 or maybe 17, and I had a cat named Paul who still is at that house. He's huge, polydactyl cat. That means they have like 5, 6, 7 fingers on their paws or toes or on their paws, and he was a big cat, and he was doing something similar. He was watching something very intently and would growl at times and would hiss a little bit. Again, didn't think much of it. And also, the whole time I lived there, I was home alone a lot. Like, I was, a teenager. I didn't have a job until I was 17, so I was home alone a lot. Because when my mom had a job, maybe my sisters were somewhere a lot. They were with their friends or whatever. Basically, when there was no one home, I would hear people walking around upstairs. Either when I was in my room in the basement, I would hear people walking around upstairs. Like, I would hear the floor creak as if somebody was going... Like the very old house. It was, I didn't think anything of it. Same thing if I was in the main floor in the living room. We had a floor above that where there were my mom's and my sister's bedrooms. I'd hear people up there just going... And I went up there a few times because I thought maybe someone was home. Nobody at all. Didn't think anything of it. But now what's happening is my mom recently, this has been recently, the paranormal activity is really going up. My mom, and it mostly happens when my mom or my stepdad has been home alone. And it's, my mom was taking a nap once on the main floor, and she woke up and heard 2 women talking. Now, when I lived there, I didn't hear anybody talking ever. And when I go over there now, I'm always with somebody, so I haven't experienced anything now. So that's just, I mean, my mom wakes up, she hears somebody talking. My stepdad hears things that just go loud. He hears loud bangs in the house when nobody's home but him. He hears people talking. A door has shut before. So stuff is happening there, and they're trying to move because of it. They don't like the constant, well, I don't know if it's constant, but it happens and it scares them. And they they're hearing talking, or they're hearing slamming. And in the paranormal field, they call stuff like door slamming, banging, that kind of thing, they call that residual. To where it's not necessarily somebody manifesting, but it's something that, stuff, I don't really understand it. I don't really understand how a residual thing can happen. I don't understand how something like that can occur. I just don't really understand it. And when I watch shows like Ghost Adventures, that shit can be really, I guess, faked. I don't want to say fake, but when you see the guy Zach on Ghost Adventures, Zach and Nick go to like a place that's haunted, like the penitentiaries in West Virginia or whatever. They can, I feel like on TV, you can manifest that stuff. You can make that stuff seem real, seem like something really happened when it may not have. So, so when I watched that show when I was a teenager, and when I was, I was like maybe 19, I didn't think much of it. Like, I thought it was cool to watch, but I didn't really think much of it. So, but I believe in the paranormal, because there are things. The people who don't believe in paranormal, like I watched Dan Bell. If you don't know who Dan Bell is, watch him. He has a channel called This Is Dan Bell. He does a series called Another Dirty Room, where they go and they look through dirty rooms and they find shit, and they find how dirty a room is. Very, very cool. He does a Dead Mall series, but he also does like cool things where he goes to haunted places, and he does some cool stuff. So I've been watching some haunted stuff, some stuff that he's doing right now, where he goes to a haunted place with somebody. And Dan Bell does not believe in paranormal. He doesn't believe in things in any of that. However, he's experiencing all this shit, and I'm not sure how he isn't a believer now. Because people who are atheists, like Dan Bell is, have this idea that seeing is believing. And that's kind of a basic thing for anybody who's an empiricist. Empiricist, like, I mean, the empiricists of the modern period were David Hume, John Locke, um, and George Berkeley. There are others, but those are the main three. And they had the idea that something that can be empirically verified is something that can be philosophy that can be philosophized about, can be studied scientifically. Thus, stuff like Leibniz's monads, or the Cartesian dualist spirit or mind. That stuff can't be empirically verified. Thus, it can't be philosophized about. It cannot be it cannot be scientifically studied. I guess is what the whole thing was. And this is another thing I've explained way better in other videos where I was really talking about them. But to somebody who's an atheist, they may not know, but they have the empiricist, the general empiricist thought about saying whether something is real or not. And for people like Dan Bell, usually stuff like hearing a bang or hearing a door shut or hearing people speaking in a place where there's no one there, there is an empirically verifiable reason for why that's occurring. Something that is way more empirically verifiable than a paranormal spirit or a specter or anything like that. Stuff like that is not real. It's transcendent. It's basically bullshit. But when you are experiencing those things, sometimes there's got to be a point. Like for Dan Bell, who goes to these places, like he recently streamed a video on his other channel, his Filmit channel. He's experiencing some things which would make you think that he might become a believer in this stuff. And when I heard from my parents, my mom and stepdad, that this has been happening, I was like, wow, a lot of stuff makes sense in this house now. Because when I was when I was in high school and lived there, stuff happened that were kind of weird and unexplainable, like the cat stuff and the walking that I thought nothing of. But now that I look back on it, the paranormal thing makes it make more sense to me. And that's just somebody like me who believes in that kind of stuff, even though I have heard the walking and the cat stuff, and I haven't experienced it firsthand. I haven't been touched by a paranormal person. Like that has happened where someone was scratched. Like sometimes sometimes a demon will basically scratch you in 3 lines, which is to mock the Trinity of the gods of God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit, is to mock that. That's why demons do that, or being touched or pushed. That stuff does happen, and I feel like stuff like that can't be empirically explained. So, relating this to epistemology. With epistemology, you have to figure out with certain things whether it is empirically verifiable, whether I can know that, for example, there is a spirit here. How can you know that? How can you know that there is a spirit present? Personally, to be able to know or to have justified true belief that there is a spirit present, you have to have a lot of things that you cannot explain, where the only way that you could possibly explain it is if there's a spirit there that's doing these things. You can't explain being pushed by nothing other than there being something there. I don't know. It's with religious epistemology, such as like where somebody has a near-death experience and they see Jesus, or they go into heaven for a little bit, and then the people down here on Earth take the electric AEDs and go clear, and then they come back. You know, stuff like that is not really. I, that can be explained by psychosis. Psychosis is one way to explain that. To where, not really psychosis, but um, basically being in a mental state of where your mind does some jumping jacks and fucks up or whatever, to where you have this experience, to where you can't really verify whether it really happened, because the mind, you have stuff like schizophrenia, you have stuff like that, to where your mind can, and you have stuff like psychosis. So you say you did it like a bunch of acid. Say you've been on acid for years. Being on acid and shrooms for years, that's what puts people in mental hospitals, because can't they can't divide between real and not real, because they've done that shit so much. But even without that, a sick mind can have some fucking hallucinations, to where you don't know what's going on. You don't know whether it's real or not, to where you're just gonna assume it's real. So stuff like that, you cannot justify that being a truth, to where you were really meeting Jesus. But under religious epistemology, so religious epistemology is a form of epistemology, to where you are trying to justify whether you can believe in a God or not, to where it's justifiable for you to believe in a supreme deity or not. So that's, I mean, you have in religious epistemology, you have people like Alvin Plantinga and I can't remember his name, William Austin, to where they kind of give some sort of epistemological formula, to where how you can justify your belief in there being a God. So, and William Austin, for one, had two two perceptions, I guess, frames of belief. Where there's the atheistic one, or the very empirical one, where everything that you're going to believe is empirical, because that's how you form your beliefs. Whereas there's the other one, like there's the I can't remember what he called it. He had a good name for it, but I can't remember. But it had to do with the people who do believe in God, to where you form your beliefs based on their being a God. So there's frames of perception as to how you form your beliefs. I have videos from that are from 4 years ago that talked about that. I discussed that when I broke my leg, when I got hit by a car, from 2013. But I don't know. I mean, sometimes seeing is believing, but for me, I believe it, and I don't necessarily have to see it. But there are always different ways that you could possibly justify a ghost or believing in God. There are different ways that you could justify other reasons for why you think that, and there being a different reason for why you experience that, and not that being really true. So, say for example, I see a pink elephant. This is kind of one of those epistemological situations or scenarios that you form, kind of like forget this guy's name, but there was I can't remember his name. There's the guy who argued against externalism, and the guy who argued against coherentism. He formed various epistemic scenarios about clairvoyance. Oh, this was his paper against externalism. I can't remember his fucking name. But he formed various epistemic scenarios about one being clairvoyant or not. So it's stuff like that, where say for example I see a pink elephant, and say for example, also I was out at a party. I only had a few drinks, but someone slipped me a roofie, not a roofie because a roofie knocks you out, but say somebody slipped me some ecstasy, or they slipped me some acid, or I ate some food as well, and somebody slipped some psychedelic mushrooms in there or something like that, and I had no idea about it. I had no effects leading me to believe that I'd been drugged, but so I'm fine. But yeah, I did see a fucking pink elephant right here in my fucking kitchen. How do you justify whether you can try to justify whether you can try to justify that you really saw a fucking pink elephant, or you can try to rationalize the reason as to why you're seeing this, but it's really not there. So when you're seeing a pink elephant, which in nature and science does not fucking exist, you're gonna go to the other way to justify as to why you're seeing this and that it really doesn't exist, which is an easier way to go. Whereas if you're seeing a ghost or a god, which is something you really think exists, and there's biblical text for it, for either a god or a ghost, and you believe those things, you're going to lean towards more trying to justify that those things really exist, and that your belief is justified, and possibly knowledge. Personally, I don't think that there can be knowledge of there being a ghost or there being a supreme deity. I don't think that is I don't think that there's a perfect way to ever do that. I don't think that it's possible to have knowledge of it. I believe that you can have justified belief of it, just like you can you can say, I see this God. I see a God up there in the skies. I had a near death experience, and I saw Jesus. Or I could say, I was sleeping and somebody hit me in my sleep, and boom, I wake up, no one's there. Or I can say, people were talking in my kitchen. I go in the kitchen, no one's there. There's, ways that you can try to make it so that you have justified belief of those things, but you can't have knowledge of it. It's not strong enough, because there are way easier ways of disproving that. But I don't know. I'm probably rambling on too much. Thank you for the one person who's been watching this. Hopefully, maybe other people will watch it after I'm done streaming. But let me know your thoughts on whether you believe in ghosts or not, and why you believe that. I believe in ghosts because I believe that I've experienced some low level phenomena of that. Also, I believe that I'm not sure about the dichotomy between ghosts and demons. Not sure about that. But I do believe that I have that paranormal activity exists. I do believe there are spirits who manifest themselves here into us, whether they be evil or not. Again, the evil or not, ghost, demon, I'm not sure about. But I believe that because of the religion that I believe in, and also because of the low level paranormal experiences I've had. And again, I think that I can have justified belief in that. But again, I'm not sure of the ghosts. I'm not sure if I can even have justified belief of that, because again, most of the things that I've the bigger ghostly experiences I know of, I heard from others, and the low level ones I've had could be explained as being something else that is more empirical. So about the ghosts, I don't know if I can have justified belief of that. However, of the God thing, I believe I can. And I'm going by Alvin Plantinga and William Alston. Personally. Again, let me know your thoughts. Thank you for watching.